What's going on, Varsity and NFL fans? It's Ghara here. So we are through 12 weeks of the NFL season, which I felt was kind of a big enough sample size to maybe make a little top 10 list. So these are my top 10 best teams in the NFL right now, and that's going into week 13. And in my opinion, this is a combination of who are the teams that are playing the best at this current moment, as well as the totality of the season. Those two things put together, these are the teams that I think are the best from 10 to 1, in my opinion, going into week 13. So let's get into it. Let's have some fun with this list. Okay, so we're going to start at number 10 with the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know the Bills are only 6-6 and just lost to the Eagles, but they have a top 3 or 4 quarterback in Josh Allen. This is still a dynamic offense and a capable defense. And even though they have a tough schedule remaining, I still think the Bills are good enough to find a way into the postseason. And their quarterback play and overall team, I think, is too good to be outside the top 10. So at number 9, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 7-4. They have one of the best defenses in the league. Obviously, the offense has struggled, but this is still a team with 2 good running backs, 2 good receivers. Kenny Pickett at quarterback, we'll see. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but they finally fired offensive coordinator Matt Canada. A lot of Steelers fans thought that he was holding the offense back, and the first game without him last week was the first game all season they actually outgained their opponent. So the Steelers' arrow is trending up, and I think they're a top 10 team. At number 8, I have the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions have kind of slipped down. You could argue they were a top 5 team for a lot of this season, but I think the Thanksgiving loss to the Packers shows that this defense can struggle and has some holes in it and is concerning moving forward. They obviously have a very good head coach, one of the best offenses in the league, and there's a lot to be excited about from the Lions this year. They're still 8-3. I still believe they're a contender, but their defense has been shaky, and I think that home loss to the Packers moves them down a few spots for the time being, unfortunately. At number 7, I have the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins have one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. They're 8-3. I would consider them a contender. They do have a pretty solid defense, especially now that they have Jalen Ramsey back. But the elephant in the room with the Dolphins is that all 3 of their losses have come against winning teams, and they have not beaten a winning team or a contender yet. So they still haven't fully proven that they're a top 5 team, but this team is way too dynamic to be outside the top 7, in my opinion. At number 6, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. From one Florida team to another, the Jags, just like the Dolphins and the Lions, are 8-3. The only difference is they've beaten some better competition. They won at Pittsburgh. They beat the Bills in London. They won at Houston just this last week. And also, they're playing really good football right now. The Jags have won 7 out of 8 games. Their defense gets takeaways, and their offense is coming along. Trevor Lawrence, that offense, has been getting better the last couple weeks. So moving forward, I like the Jags as a top 6 team. At number 5, I have the Dallas Cowboys. After their victory last night in a high-scoring battle against the Seahawks, the Cowboys are a dynamic team. They're 9-3. They have dominated in a lot of their wins. The problem is, similar to the Dolphins, they haven't truly beaten an elite team, but that chance will be there next week against the Eagles. They almost beat them the first time. The Cowboys could move up even past the 5 spot, but until they beat a contender, I'm going to keep them at 5, but this is definitely a Super Bowl contender in my opinion. At number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I think just having Patrick Mahomes by default makes you a top 5 team. The Chiefs haven't looked great for a lot of this season, but they did fix some of their mistakes. They did look good in their last win last week against Las Vegas. But look, it's Patrick Mahomes. It's the Chiefs. The defense is actually very good this season, and just having Patrick Mahomes makes you a contender, and that defense, it doesn't matter that the offense isn't quite as dynamic. They're still definitely a top 5 team. 4th on my list and a contender for sure. In my number 3 spot, I have the Baltimore Ravens. In my opinion, the best team in the AFC right now. Lamar Jackson, dynamic offense. They run the ball so well like they've been doing for years. They have a pretty good passing attack, very good defense, excellent defense actually, and a very good special teams. They're kind of just good at everything and don't do anything wrong, and that'll take you a long way. So the Ravens are number 3 in my opinion. At number 2, I have the San Francisco 49ers. In my opinion, the most dangerous team in the NFL. They have absolutely dominated in basically all their wins, and their 3 losses were 3 losses in a row where they didn't have Trent Williams, their offensive tackle, one of the best offensive linemen the game's ever seen, honestly, and Deebo Samuel, their dynamic receiver. But once those two came back, they went right back to their dominant form, and the Niners, you could argue, are the best team in the league with Brock Purdy, the incredible coaching staff that allows this run game with McCaffrey to be great, Kittle, Ayuk, Samuel, great defense. It's just like, this team is just so dangerous, and they have a chance to be the #1 team if they beat the #1 team, which they will be playing this weekend in what should be the game of the year. But as of right now, my #1 team is the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 10-1. They have 2 less losses than every other team in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is obviously incredible. They just beat the Bills in a game they very likely should have lost. Probably 28 other teams would have lost that game for sure, but the Eagles found a way to win, and you can't argue with 10-1. They're 10-1, so for now, I keep them as the best team. They're facing the 49ers in what should be an unbelievable game. I think the winner of that game will emerge as the #1 team, but when you're 2 games better than every other team, you find a way to win. You've been to the Super Bowl. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you have a great overall team that does a little bit of everything and isn't bad at anything necessarily. I think you're the best team in the league. So the Eagles are my #1 team going into week 13.